Would you dare to step onto trains where every meter of track hides an unpredictable risk? Here, mistakes offer no chance for correction, no way to turn back, and sometimes no second chance at all. Some routes were built more than a century ago and still operate almost unchanged, retaining their narrow, steep, and hazardous designs. A single thin rail separates the train from drops hundreds of meters deep. Other tracks weave through densely populated areas where every journey becomes a real test of precision and timing. And right now, the journey begins as we explore the most dangerous and spectacular railways on Earth. Viswa-Ijtema Special Train is a symbol of the most spectacular transport overload on Earth. From a distance, the train no longer looks like metal, and instead resembles a living carpet woven from thousands of people crawling across the plain. A train designed to carry a maximum of about 1,000 people regularly ends up carrying more than 10,000 passengers on its roof and along its sides, far beyond global railway safety standards. When the doors are compressed so tightly that no gap remains, the only way to join the journey is to sit on the roof or cling to the windows and outer sides of the train. That forces passengers to face deadly danger from low-hanging, high-voltage lines, tree branches, and signal boards cutting across head level. FCAB is a vital rail corridor running through the Lithium Triangle, and it is also regarded as one of the loneliest routes in the world because some sections stretch for hundreds of miles with almost no signs of life. The line runs through the center of the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, where some areas have never received rain, so the entire journey crosses a deep red surface that resembles Mars. Scientists have confirmed that in some areas along this railway, even bacteria struggle to survive in the soil. Along the FCAB line, dozens of old stations now stand completely abandoned, isolated among dust and red rock, with no settlements anywhere nearby for scores of miles. Even though it passes through visually striking terrain, this railway does not carry tourists or local passengers, and instead gives priority to chemicals, minerals, and heavy industrial freight while moving large volumes of lithium and copper day and night for the global battery and electric vehicle industries. Russia's Lake Berlinskoye salt train is known as the railway that suffers the most extreme corrosion. This train does not carry passengers, but pulls a special machine called the salt harvester to scrape crystallized salt from the bottom of the lake and load it directly into the rail cars. The entire rail system and the train wheels remain fully submerged under the lake bed, forcing the metal to stay in direct contact with salt water all year long. With salt content reaching about 26.7 ounces per gallon, Lake Berlinskoye creates a chemically corrosive environment that can destroy mechanical equipment in a short time. The railroad ties and rails become so heavily covered with salt deposits that they deform, turning the steel structures into stone-hard, natural salt sculptures that place enormous physical pressure on the train chassis. Even in that harsh environment, maintaining the old rail system and locomotives still produces tens of thousands of tons of salt each year. The Death Railway between Thailand and Myanmar is regarded as one of the railway projects with the highest death rates in modern history. According to many estimates, each mile of completed railway cost about 400 lives, creating a grim relationship between the line's length and the number of casualties. Under severe shortages of machinery, thousands of elephants were used to haul timber, steel, and other heavy materials through mud, rainforest, and dangerous mountain slopes. Steep terrain and unstable limestone geology cause many cliffside sections to face repeated landslide risk, especially during the rainy season. Most of the route on the Myanmar side has now been damaged or abandoned because of war and later historical disruption. However, the section from Nam Tok to Kanchanaburi in Thailand still operates and carries tourists every day along the same railway tied to a past of very high human loss. The railway through the Tian Shan Canyon in the Kuza section is often described as a route hanging by a thread, where loose sandstone blocks can collapse at any time. The geology here is mainly red sandstone with very weak cohesion, hard like stone when dry, but crumbly like a cracker when exposed to water or strong vibration. A single heavy rain, or the vibration from a diesel locomotive pulling dozens of coal cars can be enough to trigger small rock falls along the canyon walls. The Cunha line does not carry light passenger trains, but mainly operates dedicated coal freight trains, with each train weighing thousands of tons. This route is also known as the most beautiful in China, but it opens for only about 4 to 5 months each year. Because train frequency is not very dense and is made up mostly of freight service, capturing the moment when a long train bends through the red cliffs requires patience and very precise timing from filmmakers. Train to the Clouds holds the record for the most challenging and highest altitude railway operation in South America. The structure stands at an elevation of about 13,845 feet above sea level, placing it among the highest railway bridges in the world. Because of this extreme altitude, trains crossing the bridge carry a car loaded with oxygen tanks together with medical staff to assist passengers affected by altitude sickness. The massive metal structure weighing 1,764 tons constantly shudders under the sweeping plateau gusts, making the heartbeat involuntarily race. Looking straight down into the 207 feet deep abyss through the empty window frame, you can distinctly feel the train carriage seemingly floating in mid-air. When the train stops here, many visitors step off for a brief ceremony, listen to the Argentine national anthem, and watch the national flag move in the open air to the Andes. Hanoi Train Street is a neighborhood with what is described as the narrowest railway safety corridor on Earth. At its tightest sections, the distance from the walls of residential houses to the rail track is only about 4.9 feet. When the train passes, the remaining gap between the side of the train and the house walls is only about 12 to 20 inches, just enough for an adult to stand pressed flat against the wall. Instead of fearing it, local residents turn the area into a distinctive coffee strip. And about 5 to 10 minutes before the train arrives, cafe owners blow a whistle, clear the tables and chairs, and ask customers to stand behind the safety line. Here, you can experience standing tight against the wall and feel the strong wind and heat rising from beneath the train as it passes directly in front of your face. For railway safety reasons, authorities have repeatedly ordered the cafes here to close, but its strong appeal keeps the area returning in different forms. Mae Klong is one of the places with the highest densities of street vendors operating directly on an active railway line. Here, there are no barriers, safety markings, or automatic warning systems separating people from the train, so the same dangerous traffic situation repeats about 8 times each day. To adapt to the train schedule, many stalls are fitted with small wheels under their bases, allowing sellers to push their goods back within just a few seconds before the train passes. As soon as the last car clears the market, the awnings open again almost at once in less than 30 seconds, and trading resumes directly on the tracks. This setting also creates clear risk for visitors, because many stand too close to the railway for photos and can easily trip over goods or be forced aside as the train enters. Unlike many other places, this market has existed since 1905, and local residents refused to move when the railway was later built through the trading area. Iron ore train is known as the most dangerous train in the world, and it is also one of the longest and heaviest trains still in operation. A typical train is about 1.6 miles long, with around 200 to 210 cars. So if you stand waiting for it to pass, you could spend an entire afternoon tea just to see the last car. What gives this train its unusual reputation is that local people and adventurous travelers are allowed to ride for free on top of the iron ore cars themselves. That journey stretches for about 437 miles across a dry desert, where the landscape is reduced to wind, heat, and dust. Strong desert winds carry iron ore dust that sticks to every part of your body throughout the trip. The iron ore here is a fine powder, so if you take this ride without protective goggles and a Cheche head wrap, your eyes and lungs will be stained black after only a few hours. Gornergrat Railway in Switzerland is the highest open-air cog railway in Europe, pushing through a frozen high-altitude zone at 10,130 feet. At that elevation, the weather can shift from bright sun to blinding snowstorm within minutes, turning the track into a thin, red line across a vast frozen landscape. To climb more than 4,590 feet in only 5.6 miles, the train must tackle grades of up to 20%, and without the APTRAC system, ordinary wheels would slip immediately. The train moves slowly, taking about 33 minutes to cover 5.6 miles, not only for safety, but also so passengers can take in the full 360-degree view without missing a moment. Even at extreme altitude and under severe snowstorms, this railway continues to operate year-round because of its locomotive design and specialized snow-clearing system. Daju Cliffside Train is considered by many adventure travel sites to be one of the most frightening transportation experiences in Asia. This 8.17-mile railway has more than 1/3 of its length without solid ground beneath it, because the track is fixed in suspension along cliffs that rise at nearly 90 degrees at an elevation of about 3,937 feet. The terrain provides almost no escape space, with a sharp rock wall on one side and a deep drop on the other, so any operating error becomes highly dangerous. Dense fog and thick cloud banks can arrive at any moment, causing visibility to collapse quickly and making the ride feel like it is moving into empty space. Even in that setting, the train runs on 100% electric power and moves very smoothly. Gokteak Viaduct is the highest railway bridge in Myanmar and once held the world record when it was completed in the year 1900. The bridge stands about 335 feet high, roughly equal to a 30-story building, and crosses a deep gorge with tropical vegetation and flowing water below. At nearly 2,300 feet long, the structure appears as a steel line in midair and opens views down to steep rock walls and natural caves deep inside the ravine. The entire bridge was assembled mainly with rivets and bolts more than 120 years ago, showing a very high level of mechanical engineering for that period. To avoid excessive bending stress and vibration in the aging steel structure, trains must cross at an extremely slow speed, close to walking pace. Because the bridge has no high side barriers, the view from the train window removes all sight of track or support, making the carriage appear to float across a foggy gorge. Optics Valley Suspension Railway is the first commercial suspended railway in China. This line runs about 6.5 miles from Jufengshan Mountain to Longquanshan Mountain, passing through both modern urban districts and green ecological corridors. Even though the train hangs in the air, it operates very smoothly to reduce shaking for passengers, even when it reaches a top speed of about 37 miles per hour. The floor is made of transparent glass, forcing people inside to look directly into the open space below from heights of dozens of feet, which is especially uncomfortable for those who fear heights. Although the operating mechanism is highly complex, the entire train is controlled fully automatically by artificial intelligence, and there is no driver in the cabin. If the power system or the AI experiences a rare failure, passengers will remain suspended above the ground and can only be brought down by rescue teams using specialized equipment. Great Salt Lake Causeway is the longest railroad causeway over water in the world. It is a rare rail route where one side of the train window shows blue-green water and the other shows a vivid pink-purple color. To keep trains stable over the muddy lake bed, engineers placed more than 36 million cubic meters of rock, sand, and gravel into the lake. In 1904, it began as a giant wooden trestle, but in 1959, it was fully replaced by a solid rock and earth causeway built for modern freight trains weighing thousands of tons. The causeway cut the route by 44 miles and removed the severe grades completely, saving millions of dollars in operating costs. More than a century later, freight trains stretching for miles still cross the lake every day, linking the flow of goods from the East Coast to the West Coast. Landwasser Viaduct is the most prominent highlight on the Albula Railway, one of the most beautiful train routes on Earth. This bridge stands about 213 feet high and has 6 evenly spaced stone arches, fully faced with locally quarried limestone. So its original stone structure still remains after 122 years. Its most distinctive feature is the design without a buffer section, where the curved bridge runs straight into a vertical rock wall and connects directly to the Landwasser Tunnel, making the train seem to vanish into the mountain. With a curve radius of only about 328 feet, passengers can clearly see the cars lean at a height of about 213 feet, as if the front of the train were chasing its own tail. To maintain safety, trains cross this section at only about 6 to 9 miles per hour. That slow speed also creates a few seconds long enough for visitors to take photos or clearly feel the moment of crossing the bridge. Located in the Qaidam Basin of Qinghai Province, Chaka Salt Lake Railway is one of the most surreal railways in China at an elevation of about 10,170 feet above sea level. The defining feature of this place is a 24-inch narrow-gauge railway that runs straight into the middle of a vast salt lake. At first, the line was built only for the extraction and transport of pure salt. The nearly perfectly flat lake bed creates a rare visual effect because when the water rises slightly, the track appears to glide straight into open space, and the endless mirror effect blurs the boundary between the sky and the water. The reflective surface here looks beautiful, but this place is not safe. The very high salt concentration constantly corrodes metal and can damage electronic devices immediately if visitors accidentally drop them into the lake. Konkan Railway is the most legendary railway on Earth, where a train passes through a giant sea of milk. Dudzaga Falls stands 1,017 feet high and ranks among the tallest waterfalls in India, while the railway line cuts across the middle of the falls, making the train look as if it is flying through a giant cloud of milk. To keep trains moving safely through this sea of milk, Konkan Railway has reinforced the route with thousands of cubic meters of steel mesh, retaining walls and drainage systems along the mountain slopes. There is no other place in the world where passengers can open a train window and feel the spray of a giant waterfall hitting their face from such a close distance. During the rainy season, this railway often faces landslides and falling rocks. To maintain safety, Konkan Railway uses a separate monsoon timetable with train speeds slower than normal. The journey from Chennai to Rameswaram turns a train ride into something that feels like cutting across open water on a floating path above the sea. As the train crosses Pamban Bridge, passengers sit inside an unbroken band of blue, where the sky and the Indian Ocean nearly merge, with water visible on both sides. The bridge's most distinctive feature is the central Shkursa span, which can open in two vertical halves and allows ships to pass directly through the middle of the railway route. Danger is constant because this area is frequently hit by severe cyclones, and winds here were once strong enough to blow an entire train into the sea in the disaster of 1964. Because of strong winds and salt-driven corrosion on the rails, Trains are allowed to move at only about 6 to 9 miles per hour. That speed is slow enough for passengers to clearly feel the shaking of the century-old steel structure beneath their feet. Hotan-Ruokiang Railway is the rail line with the longest section crossing a continuous sandstorm zone in the world. Out of its total length of about 513 miles, more than 329 miles, or about 65%, cuts straight through the center of this sandstorm region. This area is a heat basin where the sand surface can reach about 140 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, while powerful sandstorms can erode metal and erase visibility in seconds. The railway is also surrounded by moving dunes that rise dozens of feet high and can shift direction before pushing into anything in their path. To complete a closed loop around the Taklamakan Desert, the project includes an artificial ecosystem like a green Great Wall with 50 million trees irrigated automatically by AI. Riding this smooth train across giant viaducts and through dense dust storms creates a very rare experience on Earth. Not the Eiffel Tower or the Panama Canal, but the White Pass and Yukon route is the engineering wonder that makes you hold your breath. Born in 1898 during the Klondike Gold Rush, the line was completed at astonishing speed in 26 months through enormous granite cliffs. This is a rare journey that requires a passport because the train crosses the border between the United States and Canada right on the windy summit of the pass. The experience here is an intersection of fear and amazement. You will shiver when the train crawls across the Dead Horse Gulch steel bridge, suspended in mid-air with a bottomless abyss beneath the wheels. Right after that comes the nostalgic beauty of the precarious wooden trestle bridges pressed tightly against sheer mountain walls. Unlike a modern train, the open platform here lets you breathe the freezing air, feel the wind striking you, and sense the rock walls passing only a few inches from the side of the train. Mount Washington Cog Railway in the United States holds the title of the second steepest cog railway in the world. The most striking section of the line is Jacob's Ladder, where the track climbs a grade of up to 37.41%, along the rocky mountainside. That incline creates a clear height difference inside a single car, with passengers in the front row sitting about 14 feet higher than those in the back row. This railway does not use ordinary friction-based wheels, but instead runs on a special cog system invented by Sylvester Marsh himself. When Marsh presented the idea, he was mocked so heavily that some people said getting permission to build a railway to the moon sounded more realistic than building one to the top of Mount Washington. The trip covers about 3 miles from the base to the summit in roughly 45 minutes, which is close to normal walking speed. Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad is one of the most dangerous narrow gauge rail lines built along a cliff edge in the world. Many parts of the route sit on artificial rock shelves, cut directly into vertical granite walls, where there are no barriers between the train and a drop of more than 394 feet. Although it appears fragile, the rock and bridge structure must still carry steam locomotives weighing up to about 113 tons, together with strong vibration from historic engines. When the train moves towards Silverton, passengers on the right side often cannot see any ground or rail below the window, only the deep drop and the Animas River below. The route also faces frequent rockfall danger because even a small falling stone can directly affect the narrow track gauge of about 36 inches. Despite this hazardous terrain, the line has remained in continuous operation since 1882. Nanjing Metro Line S9 is the longest rail bridge crossing a lake in East China, and it is also the most striking section of the entire line. The special bridge section across Shiju Lake alone stretches about 7.84 miles, accounting for nearly 25% of the total length of this metro line. To create that continuous railway across the water, the bridge is built with hundreds of piers driven directly into the bed of Shiju Lake. Beyond its length, Line S9 is also one of the fastest metro lines in Nanjing, with a maximum design speed of about 75 miles per hour. When the train runs at that speed over the lake, the view outside the window loses almost all detail and turns into a single, pale, white blur. For that reason, If there is a storm warning or strong wind alert, the line can be closed or forced to slow down suddenly to maintain safety. Rendzikar Railway Bridge is described as one of the 3 greatest engineering wonders in the world. The bridge stretches across the deep Sicha River Gorge with nearly 90-degree cliff walls on both sides, making it look like an iron web suspended between 2 enormous mountain gaps. The bridge has no support columns driven into the ground or riverbed because the entire steel mass, weighing hundreds of tons, is balanced only by 2 anchor abutments set deep into the rock faces at both ends, forming a structure shaped like the Chinese character for person. The lattice steel and rivet methods used here carry a strong mark of French industrial architecture from that period, similar to the Eiffel Tower. The whole bridge was assembled from steel members with more than 20,000 giant rivets, all hammered in by hand by workers suspended above the abyss. Even after 2 world wars and the weight of countless trains for more than 100 years, the bridge's original steel structure still stands firm and operates safely today. Beipanjiang Railway Bridge was known as the tallest railway bridge in the world for more than a decade. The bridge crosses a U-shaped gorge with rock walls that rise almost at a 90-degree angle, and it became the first railway structure on Earth to reach a height of about 902 feet, roughly equal to a 90-story building. In 2001, no railway structure anywhere in the world had reached that height. The bridge uses an inverted arch design with a main span of about 774 feet, and the entire arch is built from concrete-filled steel tubes to provide high load capacity. Even after more than 20 years of operation, the bridge remains in very good condition and has reduced mineral transport time from many days to only a few hours. Ribblehead Viaduct is not only a transport structure, but also a symbol of endurance, and at times the harshness of Victorian engineering. Because it stands at high elevation and faces extremely strong wind gusts from the valley, the bridge was designed with a slight curve to adapt to those conditions. The bridge has a total of 24 arches, extends for about 1,312 feet, and rises about 105 feet above the valley floor. Each pier is driven about 26 feet down into solid rock to stabilize the entire structure. The project took nearly 5 years, from 1870 to 1874, and required about 1.5 million bricks to complete. To build it, about 2,300 workers had to live and work in temporary slum settlements, and hundreds died from labor accidents, although most deaths were caused by smallpox and dysentery. Pilatus Railway in Switzerland is the steepest cogwheel railway in the world, with a maximum grade of about 48% and a slope that comes close to the physical limit of this type of transport. At that angle, the train can operate safely only because of its special gear system, since any steeper incline would make it closer to an elevator than to a conventional railway line. The cars are designed with large low-set windows, allowing passengers to look directly at the mountainside and clearly feel the extreme steepness of the route beneath them. The first trains on this line operated with steam power, and in 1937 the system was electrified while keeping its original and distinctive rack mechanism. The train cars are always painted bright red, creating a strong contrast with the grey rock and white snow of the surrounding mountains. Because of heavy snowfall and high avalanche risk, the railway operates only seasonally and usually opens from May to November each year. The Curitiba railway line was once called a death sentence, and leading European engineers refused to build it. Here, the track is not laid on a broad surface, but fixed tightly against a vertical rock wall, with only a very small distance between the wheels and the cliff edge, so any vibration increases the level of danger. During construction, more than 9,000 workers took part, and many died from work accidents, tunnel collapses, falls into ravines, and especially yellow fever outbreaks in the rainforest. Within a few hours, the train had to descend from more than 2,953 feet to near sea level, so any brake failure could produce extremely serious consequences. The route also passes through 14 granite tunnels and an area of constant heavy rain, where landslides, falling rock, and narrow tunnel space remain direct hazards for both the train and its passengers. From the train window, ordinary ground almost disappears from view and is replaced again and again by cliff walls, tunnel mouths, and deep drops throughout the journey. Maleko Viaduct was once the tallest railway bridge on Earth, a structure not meant for the faint-hearted. The drop from the rails to the bottom of the gorge is about 335 feet, roughly the height of a 30-story building. So simply standing there creates strong psychological pressure. At a time without modern safety equipment, workers at that height relied only on narrow steel members and faced an intense mental test. To preserve its height record, engineers built 4 intermediate steel towers, and the tallest reached about 248 feet. The whole structure weighs 3,089,439 pounds, so lifting that massive steel more than 300 feet above a deep gorge in 1890 was seen as an impossible engineering feat. Although trains no longer cross it as often today, the bridge still attracts photographers and urban exploration enthusiasts. Escape with us on a train journey across some of the most breathtaking landscapes on Earth. These journeys pass through endless green landscapes and glowing golden forests where you begin to experience nature in a completely different way. Just as you are still immersed in frozen landscapes, the journey continues across surreal stretches of color where the scenery and terrain shift constantly beyond every curve of the railway. Along the way, we will encounter the communities living beside this remarkable railway, while witnessing some of the most spectacular moments nature can create directly outside the train window. And when the final mountain peaks slowly disappear behind the train, you realize this is the kind of journey you never want to end. Right now, our journey begins. This is not an ordinary train ride, but one of the most scenic railway journeys in the world. Recognized as one of the most beautiful railways in the world, the Gornergrat train takes passengers through the core of the Swiss Alps in Switzerland along a route that climbs from valley level to high-altitude snow-covered terrain. As the bright red train begins moving, the outside environment quickly shifts into a near-complete winter landscape, where pine forests and mountain slopes are entirely covered in snow. The railway continuously ascends through glacier regions where sunlight reflects on ice surfaces and creates a strong, shimmering visual effect. The most distinctive highlight is the direct view of Matterhorn, one of the most recognizable mountain shapes in Europe, clearly visible from the train windows. The line ends at Gornergrat Station at an elevation of about 10,136 feet, where thin air and low temperatures maintain stable snow conditions throughout the year. Since its operation began more than a century ago, the entire system has relied on 100% electric traction to reduce emissions and preserve the alpine environment. The West Highland Line officially holds the record as the world's most spectacular journey and also serves as the real setting for the famous magical train. The route begins in the busy city of Glasgow and branches out to carry passengers deep into the heart of the Scottish Highlands. Standing out in this wild landscape is the Glenfinnan Viaduct, a concrete architectural work rising prominently within the surrounding natural scenery. This major structure is about 1,247 feet long and rises more than 98 feet above the ground of the valley below. Its 21 graceful arches connect the two steep slopes like a precise line added to the mountain landscape. The image of a classic steam train slowly crossing the bridge under the wide Highland sky has become a memorable visual symbol for visitors. The Daxing-Anling Railway is one of the most remarkable winter train journeys in China as it travels through the extremely cold northern frontier of the country. The railway passes through a landscape dominated by only two striking colors: the bright white of snow covering the ground and the dark trunks of primitive birch and larch forests stretching along both sides of the tracks. In many sections, the railway curves beside frozen rivers, such as the Heilongjiang River, making the train appear from above like a steel creature crawling across a sheet of ice. The dark green locomotive creates a strong visual contrast as it moves through the snow-covered wilderness and frozen forests. During autumn, The scenery changes into dense shades of yellow and orange as deciduous forests surround small lakes and rolling land beside the railway line. The route extends deep into northern China, where the landscape is almost completely separated from cities, highways, and modern structures. The Bernina Railway through the Alps is honored as one of the most beautiful train journeys in the world. Its highest technical achievement is the ability to climb to about 7,392 feet through adhesion alone, without using cogwheel rails. To overcome steep gradients, engineers built a spiral stone viaduct that allows the train to curve in a full 360-degree circle. The route includes 55 tunnels and 196 bridges, built by human labor using traditional methods from the previous century. Passengers experience an ecological transition from glacier zones below 32 degrees Fahrenheit to warm valleys filled with green palm trees. Despite heavy snowstorms, the route is kept operating continuously with the help of steam-powered snow-clearing machines. Lethbridge Viaduct is the tallest and longest steel railway trestle bridge in the world and has been an engineering symbol of Canada since 1909. With a length of 5,328 feet and a height of nearly 314 feet, the bridge forms a long, straight line across the sky above the Oldman River Valley. The structure is supported by 33 slender steel towers connected by a lattice girder system, making the entire bridge both strong and visually open. At sunset, light passes through the gaps in the steel and creates long, geometric bands of brightness and shadow across the valley. The dark steel mass of the bridge contrasts with the Cooley Cliffs and the winding Blue River below. Even after more than a century of carrying heavy transcontinental freight trains, the bridge still preserves its original structure today. Diaobingshan is the last place in the world still operating the final commercially built steam locomotive ever manufactured. The machine, carrying the number SY 1772, was produced in 1999 and continues operating on a coal railway line in Liaoning. The massive black locomotive, weighing hundreds of tons, cuts across the open plains, creating a strong contrast between old industrial machinery and the empty landscape behind it. Its boiler body is painted in glossy black, while the enormous steel wheels are lined with bright red rims, making the entire train visible even from a great distance. Whenever the locomotive appears, hundreds of photographers and local residents gather along the tracks to wait for the few seconds when it rushes past them. The moment thick white steam covers the entire machine creates a rare scene that has almost disappeared from the modern railway industry. The Glacier Express is known as the slowest express train in the world, taking you through the heart of Switzerland's majestic Alps on an 8-hour journey. This route connecting Zermatt and Sainte-Maure gives passengers an expansive view through its beautifully curved panoramic glass windows. Throughout the trip, the train demonstrates strong engineering capability as it passes over 291 bridges and through 91 tunnels. One of the most impressive moments occurs when the train crosses the stone Landwasser Viaduct, rising about 213 feet high, before entering directly into the mountain. Passengers seeking luxury can choose the premium class to enjoy a 7-course menu served directly at their seats with panoramic views. Since its launch in 1930, this railway has maintained its status as a work of mechanical engineering and high-end tourism. In the Great Salt Lake of the United States, a railway runs along a long causeway that divides the lake into 2 water zones with completely opposite colors. This large structure extends for about 20 miles across the vast water surface to serve heavy freight trains. The most distinctive feature of the route is that it unintentionally blocks water circulation, causing salt concentration on the 2 sides to become clearly different. The northern half of the lake has extremely high salinity, allowing special microorganisms to grow and turn the water a vivid pink color. Meanwhile, the southern half is naturally diluted and keeps its turquoise color, creating a surreal color boundary that can be seen clearly from outer space. Despite the dry landscape surrounding it, this railway area remains a busy stopover that attracts millions of migratory birds each year. The Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad is consistently ranked among the most scenic train journeys in North America because it passes through mountain landscapes that remain almost completely untouched. Its railway tracks were carved directly into vertical cliffs, causing the train to move precariously above the rushing waters of the Animas River below. In several sections, the locomotive crosses deep abysses on narrow wooden arch bridges, suspended within rugged, rocky terrain. The entire route pushes directly into the heart of the San Juan Mountains in Colorado, where almost no highways or modern vehicles can reach. During snowy conditions in Cascade Canyon, massive clouds of steam rise from the locomotive and freeze almost instantly in the cold air, forming a long, white trail above the train. The railway has operated continuously since 1882 and has preserved nearly the same route for more than 140 years. The railway through the Tian Shan Canyon in the Coosa section is often described as a route hanging by a thread, where loose sandstone blocks can collapse at any time. The geology here is mainly red sandstone with very weak cohesion, hard like stone when dry, but crumbly like a cracker when exposed to water or strong vibration. A single heavy rain, or the vibration from a diesel locomotive pulling dozens of coal cars can be enough to trigger small rock falls along the canyon walls. The Cunha line does not carry light passenger trains, but mainly operates dedicated coal freight trains, with each train weighing thousands of tons. This route is also known as the most beautiful in China, but it opens for only about 4 to 5 months each year. Because train frequency is not very dense and is made up mostly of freight service, capturing the moment when a long train bends through the red cliffs requires patience and very precise timing from filmmakers. Big Boy 4014 is the largest operating steam locomotive in the world, restored to run on its own without a supporting diesel engine. Its body is more than 132 feet long and made of heavy steel, so its frame uses an articulated design to bend through sharp curves. This structure once helped it cross its original route through the Wasatch Range in Utah, where steep grades and complex mountain terrain shaped its purpose. During its western journeys, the locomotive passes through Feather River Canyon and the Y-shaped steel bridge known as Keddy Y in California. After nearly 60 years in an outdoor museum, it was brought back to life in 2019. In 2026, Big Boy continues with a coast-to-coast journey across the United States to commemorate the 250th anniversary of American Independence Day. The Union Pacific Green River subdivision runs alongside the Book Cliffs, the longest continuous cliff system in the world, creating the sensation that the train is traveling beside an endless stone wall with no visible ending. As the railway enters the Utah desert, the tracks begin hugging the cliffs and curving tightly along the fast-moving Colorado River below. Inside Ruby Canyon, layers of red and orange sandstone carved for millions of years by the Colorado River rise into massive vertical walls glowing beneath the harsh desert sunlight. Freight trains, stretching for several miles, slowly crawl through the barren landscape, creating an unusual sight when viewed from above. On the Rocky Mountaineer, passengers can sit inside wide glass coaches to observe the canyon, the river, and the cliffs changing color continuously with the light. Bright yellow Union Pacific diesel locomotives pull heavy freight trains across the red rock terrain, creating a clear contrast between railroad industry and the desert landscape of the American West. The Cumbres and Toltec Railroad was once recognized as the most beautiful sightseeing train in the United States because it travels through mountain regions that still preserve their wild character. The route extends for more than 62 miles across large protected areas where the Rocky Mountain ecosystem remains only lightly affected by urban development. Historic steam locomotives continuously release white smoke columns among pine forests, alpine meadows, and snow-covered peaks. In autumn, the train passes through the San Juan region, where mountain slopes are covered with yellow and orange aspen forests. Some sections of track run close to vertical cliff edges, opening views down into deep canyons and the fast-moving river below. Because the train still burns real coal, passengers in the open cars may sometimes notice small particles of ash and soot falling on their clothing during the journey. The Bergen Line connects Oslo with Bergen and is often ranked among the most beautiful train journeys in the world. During the roughly 7-hour trip, the train moves from green valleys and temperate pine forests to barren high mountains and deep Norwegian fjords. The highest point reaches about 4,000 feet as the train crosses Hardangervidda, the largest high mountain plateau in Europe. In winter, snow becomes so deep that rotary snowplows must clear the track first, forming tall snow corridors through the frozen landscape. The railway took more than 30 years to build and includes over 180 tunnels cut through hard mountain rock. Despite snowstorms and avalanches, the Bergen Line has remained a key transport route between eastern and western Norway for more than a century. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway is honored as the world's greatest route to the sky as it crosses dangerous high plateaus. This remarkable journey reaches its highest point at Tangula Pass, at a record elevation of about 16,640 feet above sea level. Visitors pass along the edge of clear Quona Lake at an elevation of about 15,748 feet, where the water reflects the deep blue sky. The train also crosses vast nature reserves, where rare antelope herds graze freely on the grasslands. The carriages use large, ultraviolet-resistant glass windows that allow passengers to observe the full landscape outside. To ensure safety in the thin air, an oxygen supply system is continuously pumped into the passenger cabins, similar to commercial flights. Eastern Express is considered the most famous winter train journey in Turkey, traveling across the Anatolia region from the central capital area to the distant eastern border. The railway covers about 814 miles with an average speed of only 25 to 31 miles per hour, causing the full trip to last more than an entire day. During winter, much of Anatolia becomes covered in deep snow, creating a continuous white landscape surrounding the red and white train cars moving through isolated valleys. Along the railway are small stations positioned between snowy mountain areas where signs of dense population or modern urban activity are minimal. Sleeper cabins become the preferred option because the journey can last from 24 to more than 30 hours under cold, seasonal conditions. Winter tickets often sell out within minutes after online release, especially during periods of peak tourism demand. The Inner Mongolia Grassland Railway System is considered the longest green corridor on the planet, as it runs through a vast, continuous temperate grassland with a high level of landscape preservation. The train moves across an open field of grass that extends to the horizon, creating a consistent spatial experience when viewed from the passenger windows. Instead of cutting through terrain, the track is designed with curved and U-shaped alignments that follow low hills, helping maintain the natural surface structure of the grassland. Along the route, white yurt tents are scattered across the land, representing portable housing that reflects the traditional nomadic lifestyle of Mongolian communities. A network of grass-covered underpasses and overpasses is integrated along the line, allowing livestock and wildlife to move freely without disruption from train operations. The railway reduces travel time from Hohhot to the Zilingol grassland core region to about 5 hours under stable and continuous operating conditions. The White Pass and Yukon Railroad proudly ranks among the most beautiful routes in the world and is an outstanding engineering masterpiece once compared with the Eiffel Tower. This historic work was born from the gold rush, when tens of thousands of workers used hundreds of tons of explosives to cut through countless massive granite cliffs. Over a distance of less than 20 miles, the train climbs dramatically and carries passengers up toward a mountain summit nearly 3,281 feet high. This dramatic terrain change carries passengers through 3 climate zones, from a misty coastal region directly to freezing snow-covered peaks. The sense of tension rises when the steel machine bursts out of a dark tunnel and reveals a grand view of glittering glaciers. The journey ends with the moss-covered remains of a cantilevered wooden bridge that once held the record as the highest on the planet, standing precariously above the abyss. The railway from Kandy to Ella is considered one of the most beautiful train journeys on Earth and is known for its distinctive natural scenery in South Asia. This route was originally built by the British in the 19th century, not for passengers, but to transport coffee and later tea from the highlands to the port of Colombo. The train passes through the Ceylon tea region, where green plantations cover the mountain slopes for many miles. One of the most memorable experiences is that carriage doors are often open, allowing passengers to sit at the edge with their legs extended outward while feeling the mountain wind directly. Although the distance is about 99 miles, the journey takes from 7 to 10 hours with a speed slow enough to observe each row of tea plants along the route. Due to its strong appeal, travelers usually need to book tickets at least 30 days in advance or be prepared to stand for several hours. Tehachapi Loop is a one-of-a-kind spiral railway masterpiece and is often praised as one of the 7 wonders of the railroad world. The loop design creates a rare phenomenon where trains longer than 3,900 feet can pass above the rear part of their own cars while crossing the mountain slope. The distinctive appeal of Tehachapi does not come from luxury passenger trains, but from colorful freight trains in yellow, orange, red, and blue, curving through the wild hills. From above, the long chain of cars looks like a giant ribbon, moving through dry terrain and narrow curves. The landscape changes by season, as the yellow summer hills can turn into green grasslands with wildflowers after spring rain. Despite being very busy with about 40 trips daily, the railway still retains the absolute serenity inherent to the West Coast mountainous region. The Transalpine is frequently recognized by leading travel magazines as one of the most spectacular train journeys on the planet. Few journeys can contain 4 ecosystems, from vast grasslands to permanent snow mountains and primary rainforests, in less than 5 hours. To cross the rugged mountain range, the train must pass through 16 tunnels, cut through rock walls, and cross 4 massive viaducts. The most striking moment occurs when the carriage seems to run suspended in the air at a height of about 240 feet above the deep valley floor. The entire interior features curved glass windows extending up to the ceiling to maximize panoramic visibility. More notably, the open-air viewing carriage has no glass walls, creating an ideal space for photographers who want to capture the raw landscape without glare. Explore the longest lake-crossing railway in China, where an everyday trip turns into a surreal animated film scene. Although it belongs to a metro system, this section runs fully above ground on a bridge more than 7.8 miles long across a giant freshwater lake. tracks are placed directly in the central divider of National Highway 235, so passengers can see cars running very close beside the windows. In summer, the lake surface reflects white clouds like a huge mirror, while in winter, the falling water level exposes the lakebed and turns the area into a wide green grassland similar to the Mongolian steppe. This is also the fastest operating metro line in Nanjing, allowing the train to glide over the water at 75 miles per hour. The Thompson subdivision is the core route of the legendary Rocky Mountaineer train and has won the award for the world's leading train journey many times. The trip takes you from dry, semi-desert hills, glowing in orange and red tones, into steep, black rock canyons wrapped around an emerald green river. The most notable engineering feature of this route is that the track does not sit on a wide surface, but clings to a narrow ledge, blasted and cut directly into massive basalt cliffs. Along the route, tunnel portals, artificial rock walls, and old steel bridges form a chain of man-made structures placed among large mountain and river terrain. Another rare feature is that both sides of the river have railway lines operated by different companies, so several trains can appear in the same canyon at the same time. Because of this, passengers often have the chance to watch giant trains moving in opposite directions or running parallel to each other inside a very narrow rock corridor. The Death Railway often appears on lists of historic railway routes with some of the most rugged and striking scenery in the world. The defining highlight of this breathtaking journey is the Tem Krasai trestle section, where the track is supported by a massive and complex wooden structure pressed against towering limestone cliffs above the Kwai Noi River. After more than 8 decades, moss and tropical vegetation have covered the old structure, creating a highly photographic landscape scene. The appeal also comes from the experience of riding old train cars, with open windows that let in cool air from the river below, giving passengers the feeling of moving through a vintage film scene. Unlike many ordinary military ruins, a section of more than 80 miles of this railway is still maintained and continues to carry passengers to this day. Hanoi Train Street is always listed among the most spectacular and unusual train-watching spots on the planet. This structure was built by the French in 1902 and still preserves its classic architecture in the middle of the busy capital. This is one of the rare places where an entire lively cafe street can disappear in just 60 seconds to make way for a passing train and immediately reappear afterward. Its real visual impact comes from the extremely narrow space where the massive train passes less than 3 feet from house fronts and visitors. When night falls, the old railway suddenly becomes bright under the glow of hundreds of red lanterns and vivid neon lights. The most distinctive experience is sitting on a second-floor balcony, drinking a hot egg coffee, listening to music, and waiting for the train to appear. Train to the Clouds holds the record for the most challenging and highest altitude railway operation in South America. The structure stands at an elevation of about 13,845 feet above sea level, placing it among the highest railway bridges in the world. Because of this extreme altitude, trains crossing the bridge carry a car loaded with oxygen tanks together with medical staff to assist passengers affected by altitude sickness. The massive metal structure weighing 1,764 tons constantly shudders under the sweeping plateau gusts, making the heartbeat involuntarily race. Looking straight down into the 207 feet deep abyss through the empty window frame, you can distinctly feel the train carriage seemingly floating in mid-air. When the train stops here, many visitors step off for a brief ceremony, listen to the Argentine national anthem, and watch the national flag move in the open air to the Andes. FCAB is a vital rail corridor running through the Lithium Triangle, and it is also regarded as one of the loneliest routes in the world because some sections stretch for hundreds of miles with almost no signs of life. The line runs through the center of the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, where some areas have never received rain, so the entire journey crosses a deep red surface that resembles Mars. Scientists have confirmed that in some areas along this railway, even bacteria struggle to survive in the soil. Along the FCAB line, dozens of old stations now stand completely abandoned, isolated among dust and red rock, with no settlements anywhere nearby for scores of miles. Even though it passes through visually striking terrain, this railway does not carry tourists or local passengers. and instead gives priority to chemicals, minerals, and heavy industrial freight while moving large volumes of lithium and copper day and night for the global battery and electric vehicle industries. Located in the Qaidam Basin of Qinghai Province, Chaka Salt Lake Railway is one of the most surreal railways in China at an elevation of about 10,170 feet above sea level. The defining feature of this place is a 24-inch narrow-gauge railway that runs straight into the middle of a vast salt lake. At first, the line was built only for the extraction and transport of pure salt. The nearly perfectly flat lake bed creates a rare visual effect because when the water rises slightly, the track appears to glide straight into open space, and the endless mirror effect blurs the boundary between the sky and the water. The reflective surface here looks beautiful, but this place is not safe. The very high salt concentration constantly corrodes metal and can damage electronic devices immediately if visitors accidentally drop them into the lake. Russia's Lake Berlinskoye salt train is known as the railway that suffers the most extreme corrosion. This train does not carry passengers, but pulls a special machine called the salt harvester to scrape crystallized salt from the bottom of the lake and load it directly into the rail cars. The entire rail system and the train wheels remain fully submerged under the lake bed, forcing the metal to stay in direct contact with salt water all year long. With salt content reaching about 26.7 ounces per gallon, Lake Berlinskoye creates a chemically corrosive environment that can destroy mechanical equipment in a short time. The railroad ties and rails become so heavily covered with salt deposits that they deform, turning the steel structures into stone-hard, natural salt sculptures that place enormous physical pressure on the train chassis. Even in that harsh environment, maintaining the old rail system and locomotives still produces tens of thousands of tons of salt each year. Iron ore train is known as the most dangerous train in the world, and it is also one of the longest and heaviest trains still in operation. A typical train is about 1.6 miles long, with around 200 to 210 cars. So if you stand waiting for it to pass, you could spend an entire afternoon tea just to see the last car. What gives this train its unusual reputation is that local people and adventurous travelers are allowed to ride for free on top of the iron ore cars themselves. That journey stretches for about 437 miles across a dry desert, where the landscape is reduced to wind, heat, and dust. Strong desert winds carry iron ore dust that sticks to every part of your body throughout the trip. The iron ore here is a fine powder, so if you take this ride without protective goggles and a Cheche head wrap, your eyes and lungs will be stained black after only a few hours. On this planet, there are roads so dangerous that just looking at them makes it hard to believe people still travel through them every day. Some routes cling to mountain cliffs, where the road surface depends on rock stability, weather, and even the smallest shifts in the terrain. In more remote regions, weather and ground conditions can change so quickly that even a familiar road becomes difficult to control. When the distance is too great and rescue cannot arrive in time, even a small incident can become a serious risk. That is why the danger is not only in the road itself, but also in the things drivers cannot predict. Today, we will explore the world's most extreme roads, where every decision can change the entire journey. Stelvio Pass is known as the king of the Alpine roads because it rises to 9,049 feet and holds the title of the highest paved road in Italy. This mountain pass is defined by 48 numbered hairpin turns arranged in reverse order, forming a continuous zigzag route along steep mountain slopes. Many sections are very narrow and have no guardrails, so a small steering error can bring the wheels close to the cliff edge. The steep gradient puts heavy pressure on the braking system during descent, while the engine must work near its limit during the climb. Even in July, drivers may still face thick fog or high snow walls standing above the road surface. At the summit of Stelvio, a ski resort opens only in summer because winter snow becomes too deep and access conditions turn dangerous. Panlong Ancient Road in China is called the electrocardiogram of Earth because more than 600 sharp turns are packed into a route only about 19 miles long. From above, the black asphalt road twists tightly together like a giant intestine hanging across the dry desert mountain slopes. Straight sections almost disappear as repeated hairpin bends fold up to 270 degrees, giving drivers barely any time to recover between turns. The highest point reaches about 13,780 feet, where thin air combined with constant side-to-side motion can cause oxygen loss and nausea even for experienced drivers. During the descent, drivers must keep braking through hundreds of connected corners, filling the route with the strong smell of overheated brake pads. Although it originally began as a narrow trail for shepherds moving sheep through the mountains, the road has become a famous destination for adventure drivers worldwide. Leh-Manali Highway is a deadly playground on the roof of the world, with some of the highest motorable mountain passes on the planet. You must continuously cross 5 dramatic passes, with Tanglang La reaching more than 17,400 feet, higher than the tallest mountain in Europe. In many sections, vehicles do not cross bridges, but drive directly through glacial meltwater streams flowing down from the mountain slopes onto the road surface. This road is often buried under dozens of feet of snow and completely disappears from the map throughout the 7 months of winter. The real nightmare is the 21 hairpin turns of Garter loops, with patchy road surfaces and absolutely no protective barriers along the edge of the abyss. Right there stands a small shrine where drivers must leave a bottle of water to appease the ghost of the helper who died of thirst and pray for their own safety. Fairy Meadows Road is rarely absent from lists of the world's most dangerous roads because of its steep grade, narrow surface, and complete lack of barriers. The route was carved by hand hundreds of years ago along the mountain cliff, with almost no modern machinery or standard reinforcement techniques. Maintenance usually happens only after landslides or avalanches, when locals clear rocks by hand to keep the road barely passable. Its rough surface and cliff edge close to the wheels make ordinary vehicles unable to reach it, while only old, local modified four-wheel drive Jeeps can pass. Although it is only about 10 miles long, the journey often takes more than 1 hour because vehicles must crawl through each narrow section. Despite the risks, it remains the most direct shortcut to one of the remote base camps in the Himalayas. Yungas Road in Bolivia holds one of the most frightening titles in the world, known as the most dangerous road on Earth. With a dirt surface only about 10 feet wide and no guardrails, one side is a vertical rock wall, while the other is a deep drop of nearly 1,969 feet. The danger also comes from waterfalls pouring directly onto the road, keeping the route muddy and slippery throughout the year. To protect lives, this is the only place in Bolivia where vehicles are required to drive on the left, helping drivers keep their wheels close to the edge of the cliff. During its peak period, an estimated 200 to 300 people died every year, with a dense number of crosses marking fall points along the entire journey. Despite this tragic record, the place still attracts around 25,000 visitors each year who come to test their own limits. Turkey's D915 road was once ranked above Bolivia's North Yungas Road as one of the most dangerous transport routes on Earth. This 106-kilometer road was carved by hand in 1916 and still has almost no asphalt surface or protective barriers. The danger is most concentrated on the mountain section, where 13 of its 29 hairpin turns are packed into only 3 miles. At narrow bends, pressed against the cliff wall, drivers often must reverse to gain steering angle, while the rear wheels sit only inches from the drop. Although extreme drivers see it as a major challenge, it remains a daily working route for heavy trucks and local drivers. Zojila Pass is a fragile link between the Kashmir Valley and the Ladakh region, and it is often ranked among the most dangerous mountain passes in the world. The dirt road here is only wide enough for one truck, with a rocky mountain wall on one side and a deep, unguarded drop on the other. When winter arrives, snow several feet thick covers the entire pass and forces traffic to stop completely for about 6 months. Reopening the road in spring is carried out by India's Border Roads Organization using heavy machinery to cut through vertical snow walls. During migration season, motor vehicles must also share the narrow road with nomadic sheep and goats, creating unusual traffic blockages on the mountain slope. To reduce traffic blockages and dependence on weather, Asia's longest two-way road tunnel is being built directly beneath Zoji La to create a more stable connection between Kashmir and Ladakh. Although it is only about 1,486 feet long, Lingbaishi Village Road bends 18 times, creating a short road with a very high density of curves. The distance between many turns is only about 66 to 98 feet, so a vehicle must steer in the opposite direction immediately after leaving one bend. The corners do not follow wide, smooth arcs, but fold sharply into Z-shaped turns, forcing drivers to rotate the steering wheel almost fully in a narrow space. At the 180-degree bends, rock walls block visibility, so drivers must honk and move forward little by little. The road is so narrow that even two small cars passing each other is difficult, while trucks and buses can hardly enter it. Even so, this road once served as the only route that helped thousands of local residents escape isolation. Los Caracoles Pass is a vital trade route crossing the core of the Andes, linking Chile and Argentina through one of the most dangerous mountain passes in the world. The road has 29 steep and sharp turns, forming a shape like a knotted rope between mountain walls when seen from above. Many sections lack strong protective barriers, so a small driving error can send a vehicle into ravines hundreds of feet deep. At about 10,500 feet above sea level, drivers must also deal with thinner oxygen and avoid 18-wheel trucks moving close to the cliff edge. When winter arrives, the road surface can freeze, and the pass is often closed because of snowstorms or avalanche risk. Although it remains an important commercial route, Los Caracoles still puts heavy pressure on drivers because of its steep grades, sharp bends, and harsh weather. The Canning Stock Route is considered the longest and loneliest off-road route on Earth, stretching more than 1,150 miles through the heart of the Australian desert. The route was opened in 1906 to move cattle for sale, but the dry climate caused many herds to die of thirst before reaching the final destination. This road crosses 3 major deserts and forces vehicles to climb more than 900 steep red sand dunes with almost no support infrastructure. The journey usually lasts about 3 weeks, pushing drivers into an isolated region with no phone signal, medical station, or nearby settlement. Because every form of outside help is absent, the route functions like an open desert prison, where a small technical mistake can become a survival crisis. Along the track, many abandoned vehicle wrecks remain because desert recovery costs can exceed the value of the vehicle itself. Canadian ice roads are considered the most dangerous and shortest-lived highways on Earth because the entire road surface forms on frozen lakes and lasts only about 60 days. Vehicles must not exceed 16 miles per hour because higher speed can create pressure waves that crack the ice and swallow the vehicle. Because ice collapse can happen instantly, drivers often do not wear seatbelts and keep the windows slightly open to escape quickly. Drivers also face temperatures of -58 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to make a truck's steel frame brittle and easier to break. In these conditions, whiteout snowstorms can suddenly erase visibility, turning every yard of road into a survival decision. Despite the danger, thousands of trucks still run through the night to carry supplies before the road melts, in exchange for a year's income after only 2 months. Skipper's Canyon Road is consistently ranked among the most dangerous roads in the world and is rejected by many vehicle insurance companies because of its extreme risk level. The entire route was carved directly into fragile schist rock, creating a constant threat of landslides along the steep canyon walls. No protective barriers exist along the road, forcing drivers to travel beside cliffs hundreds of feet deep with almost no margin for error. The roadway is so narrow that only one vehicle can pass at a time, often requiring drivers to reverse blindly when another vehicle approaches from the opposite direction. To complete the journey, vehicles must also cross Skipper's Bridge, a historic suspension bridge about 328 feet high that shakes heavily whenever traffic moves across it. Although the canyon is now mostly deserted, this road was once heavily crowded during the 19th century when the regional gold rush was at its peak. Schaefer Trail is one of the most dangerous dirt roads in the United States because its unguarded surface is cut directly into the steep sandstone cliffs. During the Cold War, this route was linked to uranium mining, as large trucks carrying radioactive ore had to cross its narrow and steep turns. The most hazardous terrain appears at the Z-shaped bends, where drivers often move at only about 2 to 3 miles per hour to keep their wheels away from the cliff edge. Because the road is extremely narrow, oncoming traffic can force drivers to reverse close to the edge within a very limited space. When light rain falls, the red dirt and rock surface quickly turns into slippery mud, reducing tire traction and increasing the risk of vehicles sliding into the canyon. Although it is mainly used by high-clearance vehicles, Schaefer Trail also attracts mountain bikers who want to descend through large sandstone cliffs. Cañón del Parto is considered one of the most dangerous roads in South America because this narrow dirt route cuts through the Andes and runs beside deep cliffs with almost no protective barriers. Directly below the rough roadway, the Santa River flows violently hundreds of feet beneath the road, creating intense pressure for vehicles moving through tight curves. In several parts of the canyon, two massive rock walls press together within only about 49 feet, blocking most of the sunlight from entering the passage. This route was originally built for a mineral transport railway, so the current roadway remains so narrow that many sections barely allow one vehicle to pass. Within only about 15 miles, drivers must travel through 35 dark tunnels, blasted directly into the mountain core without any lighting system inside. At every tunnel entrance, drivers constantly use their horns, because if two vehicles meet head-on, one driver must reverse toward the cliff edge in complete darkness. La carretera del acantilado de Lanying está considerada uno de los corredores de acantilado más peligrosos y rudimentarios de China, ya que todo el trazado está excavado directamente en la pared rocosa y queda suspendido sobre un abismo profundo. Esta estructura fue construida manualmente por los aldeanos locales, con martillos y explosivos, durante un periodo continuo de 4 años para superar un aislamiento prolongado. La carretera tiene solo unos 9 pies de ancho, lo justo para un único coche, lo que convierte los encuentros entre vehículos en sentidos opuestos en una situación que exige maniobras precisas. Un lado es una pared de roca irregular que se pega al vehículo, mientras que el otro lado cae varios cientos de pies sin ninguna barrera de protección. A lo largo del recorrido, algunos tramos de la pared rocosa se abren al exterior, formando huecos que ofrecen vistas directas hasta el fondo del acantilado y aumentan la exposición visual. Antes de que existiera esta carretera, viajar desde la aldea hasta la localidad más cercana llevaba casi un día entero, pero ahora la misma distancia puede recorrerse en solo unas pocas decenas de minutos. Would you dare drive straight into a tiger's mouth? Because this is a road where the smallest mistake can cost a life. At Lao Hu Tai, the overhanging rock hangs so low that if a vehicle hits a pothole, a rise of only about 2 inches is enough for the roof to strike the rock and throw the vehicle toward the cliff. The roadway is only about 19.7 feet wide, so when 2 trucks pass here, they must fold in their side mirrors and crawl forward inch by inch to avoid hitting the roof against the rock above or slipping toward the drop. At the narrowest point, the tires were only a hand's width from the edge of the cliff, forcing the driver to lean out the window to keep a close watch, as a slight misstep could send the entire vehicle plunging into the river below. Because of the complex geology and the cut rock wall, this area often experiences landslides or falling rocks. Today, modern mountain tunnels have been built to replace it, and the Lao Hu Tai section is now used mainly by visitors or smaller vehicles that want to experience the route. Shimshal Valley Road often ranks among the most dangerous roads on Earth in adventure travel coverage. Over 18 years, local residents carved this road by hand into vertical limestone cliffs. The road has no divider or guardrail, with a towering rock wall on one side and a drop of hundreds of feet toward the Shimshal River on the other. It is so narrow that it barely fits drive Jeep, leaving the outer wheels only inches from the cliff edge. When vehicles meet head-on, drivers may need to reverse for hundreds of feet along the steep edge, where one small mistake can cost a life. This is the only road connecting the highest village in the Hunza region, where about 2,000 Shimshal residents live. Dade's Gorge Road often appears on lists of the most frightening roads in the world. The road climbs to an elevation of more than 6,230 feet above sea level, giving a wide view across the Atlas Highlands. Its steepest section folds into repeated hairpin turns, making the whole route look like a ribbon sliding down the mountainside. Because of strong temperature expansion between day and night, large rock slabs often break loose and fall onto the road without warning. Although the region is dry, rainfall in the upper valley can still create flash floods that rush through the gorge within minutes and sweep away everything in their path. In contrast to that danger, the area lies near the Magoon Valley, which is famous for rose production, so the air can sometimes carry a light floral scent across the dry mountains. Abano Pass appears repeatedly on lists of the world's most dangerous roads published by international organizations. At an elevation of about 9,272 feet, there are sections where you can see yourself driving above the clouds. Across more than 43 miles of road, there is not a single foot of protective barrier, even though just inches from the wheels there are drops hundreds of feet deep. At the sharpest hairpin turns, waterfalls from the mountaintop strike the road directly, forcing drivers to move through fast-flowing water while their view is completely blocked by white spray. Along the route, many warning signs and small memorials stand right at the curves, marking the places where unlucky drivers fell into the ravine. The pass stays open for only about 4 to 5 months each year, usually from June to October, and for the rest of the year, the entire Tasheti region is cut off from the outside world by heavy snow. Duku Highway is described by backpackers and many travel magazines as the most beautiful road in China. Across only 349 miles, this route passes through 5 completely different types of landscape, from burning desert, red rock canyons, and green grasslands, to ancient cypress forests, and finally, a world of permanent ice. Some sections are cut directly into limestone cliffs, while deep drop-offs below force any driver to maintain full concentration. To build a route through this dangerous terrain, more than 168 soldiers lost their lives, which means about 1 person died for every 2 miles of road. Because of heavy snowfall and landslide risk, the road is closed for more than 200 days each year. When it is reopened in June, rescue crews must use specialized snow-clearing vehicles capable of blasting away snow layers about 16 to 33 feet thick. Yongwu Road is the longest flooded death road in China, built directly across Poyang Lake. This road can change form with the seasons, turning from a highway across green grassland in the dry season into a thin strip submerged underwater in the flood season. When the water rises to the right level, the road reflects the sky like a giant mirror, making drivers feel as if they are driving through the air. Unlike normal land roads, the marker posts here are not only for lane guidance, but also the only signs that help drivers identify the asphalt surface in the middle of the vast lake. This route has no dust, but it always carries the danger of slippery algae on the surface. Although it is a popular check-in location, traffic is completely banned when the water rises too high or strong waves appear, so visitors are usually advised to check the water level before coming. Pagal Nala is known as the worst nightmare in the Spiti region and holds the record as the traffic black spot with the most unstable water level on the Himalayas. The water here can appear or disappear suddenly, even under strong sunshine, because torrents can still rush down when glacier melt on the mountain peaks increases with the daytime temperature. The force of this meltwater is strong enough to sweep away large motorcycles or overturn heavy SUVs if a driver chooses the wrong line by only a few inches. To cross this point, drivers must keep the throttle steady and must not stop in the middle of the stream, because the wheels can sink immediately into the moving loose rock beneath the fast current. This is a critical bottleneck on Spiti's main road system. If even one vehicle breaks down here, the entire valley can be completely cut off for many hours or even many days. Xinjiang Tibet Highway is identified as the highest and loneliest paved road on Earth. Its average elevation is above 14,760 feet, and some passes rise beyond 17,388 feet, which is higher than Everest Base Camp. It is also the only paved road in the world that maintains a long journey in extremely low oxygen conditions, where both the human body and engine performance are placed under constant strain. As the route crosses the Aksai Chin Desert, drivers may travel for hundreds of miles without phone signal, supply stations, or medical support. Even in summer, snowstorms can arrive without warning, and temperatures can drop below -22 degrees Fahrenheit within only a few hours. Despite those severe conditions, the region still supports rare wildlife such as wild yak, wild ass, and Tibetan antelope. Sakch Pass is ranked among the most dangerous roads in the world that people can still drive across. For 7 to 8 months each year, this pass, at an elevation of about 14,500 feet, is completely swallowed by snow, and its surface rejects both asphalt and concrete. It is an almost perfectly isolated space with no phone signal, no GPS, no rescue point, and no sign of human presence across the white terrain. Even in summer, a vehicle can be trapped between snow walls about 49 feet high, while freezing ice streams crash from the cliff directly onto the roof as the wheels cling to the edge. With no guardrails above, drops thousands of feet deep, drivers must reverse and inch forward repeatedly across loose rock and liquid mud just to squeeze the vehicle past the mountain wall. Before taking on the dangerous descent beyond the summit, every driver stops at the small temple at the top of the pass to pray for safety. Tarim Desert Highway is the longest road in the world to cross shifting sand in the Taklamakan Desert. The route is about 343 miles long, and 277 miles of it run directly through the uninhabited core of the desert. To stop sand from invading the road, more than 20 million drought-resistant trees have been planted along both sides, forming an ecological corridor more than 248 miles long in the middle of the wasteland. If a technical failure stops the water flow for a few days, the entire route can be erased under millions of tons of sand. Driving here means facing near total isolation because only one small guard station appears every 2.5 miles as a rare sign of life. Recently, China began replacing pumps with solar panels, turning Tarim Desert Highway into the country's first carbon-free desert road. Diaobiling is known as the dinosaur spine of China and is considered one of the most dangerous and spectacular roads in the world. Seen from above, the road does not run around the mountain slope, but sits directly on top of a narrow, rocky ridge with steep abysses on both sides, creating the feeling of a thin thread laid on a knife edge. Unlike many modern mountain roads, several sections here have no guardrails or only low marker posts, so the road still keeps its original sense of danger. At its narrowest points, the surface is only wide enough for a single car, leaving no room for error even by a few inches. Strong gusts rising suddenly from the valley can shake tall vehicles and may even push them away from the narrow line of the road. Stepping onto the unguarded edge, you face clouds rising at waist level and the sensation of hanging above empty space while taking in a full 360-degree view of the Qinling Mountains. G315 U-shaped road is a section of highway crossing the Gobi Desert and is known as the most dangerous photo stop road in China. Its greatest danger is the very deep U-shaped slope, where large trucks rushing downhill have great difficulty braking suddenly and can become a direct threat to anything in front of them. The risk becomes even greater because this area is frequently hit by sandstorms carrying high-speed quartz particles strong enough to strip vehicle paint and crack windshields. During major storms, sand can bury the road so quickly that within 15 minutes, the asphalt of G315 can disappear completely and leave vehicles trapped in a sea of sand. Even under these conditions, many visitors still lie in the middle of the road for photos, despite trucks descending with strong acceleration and almost no ability to brake suddenly. To prevent tragedy, authorities have installed AI cameras and high-power loudspeakers, while also imposing heavy fines and license suspension as a deterrent. The Kabul-Jalalabad Highway is often called the Valley of Death because it combines dangerous canyon terrain with the lasting traces of decades of armed conflict. The road forms a narrow corridor, trapped between rock walls and the fast-moving Kabul River, with many sections bending close to deep cliffs. Along the road and mountain slopes, bomb craters and marks from anti-tank weapons remain visible, showing the unstable past of the area. The danger increases because many large trucks often ignore traffic signs and force smaller vehicles to move near the cliff edge. The combination of harsh terrain and reckless driving causes vehicles to fall into ravines so often that yearly casualties are difficult to record fully. The charred remains of vehicles scattered at the bottom of the ravine serve as a chilling reminder of the price paid by reckless drivers on this road. Kinawa Cliff Road is called the most dangerous road on Earth because many sections are carved directly into the body of a massive rock cliff. This half-tunnel road was created with human labor and explosives, then further shaped by hand on a vertical rock surface. The natural rock roof above is so low and uneven that it can pass close to vehicle roofs, creating a compressed feeling as cars move through it. Along the road edge, tires must move beside cliffs hundreds of feet deep that drop toward the Sutlej River without any protective barrier. The roadway is only wide enough for one vehicle, yet it still works in both directions, forcing drivers to reverse near the cliff edge at blind curves. Despite its danger, this route remains an important connection between the outside world, the remote Spiti Valley, and the Tibetan border region. Nujiang 72 Bens is one of the most notable mountain roads in China due to its extreme danger and complex terrain structure along steep slopes. From elevated viewpoints, the road appears as a layered winding path tightly attached to vertical mountain faces with a high density of sharp curves. Despite its name suggesting 72 bends, the route actually contains more than 130 consecutive hairpin turns within a distance of less than 12 miles. The local geology consists of highly erodible rock, increasing the risk of landslides during rainy periods when large stones can fall directly onto the roadway. Continuous braking while descending through hundreds of curves can cause brake systems to overheat and potentially fail during operation. At the base of the pass, cooling stations using cold water are installed to reduce brake temperature for trucks after completing the hazardous downhill section.